We live on the cutting edge of physics, materials science, engineering, and nanotechnology. Because at Lockheed Martin, we're engineering a better tomorrow.
How's everyone doing? Much better. So I loved that last session for a couple of amazing reasons. Like the concept of biomimicry is probably one of the coolest things ever, simply because it connects like this idea that the information that we want to know can be observed by just observing nature. It's like you can have scientific brilliance, but just looking at things in your environment. So that makes me very happy. But there's some things that actually don't make me happy as well. So like I'm here to kind of vent a little bit, like not to give a presentation, just like vent and talk about things that don't make me happy. Is that okay for a little bit? All right, so the one thing that doesn't make me happy is that at this event this year, there were tens and thousands of young people who are enthusiastic about science, who are gonna be here, and some of you are in the room right now. You asked brilliant questions about the previous science experiment. Your like eyes are lighting up when you see things and people are telling you things about science. But did you know that despite that fact, only about 8 to 10% of the kids who are here right now are actually gonna end up having careers in STEM? Like, the fact that you guys are so excited, so passionate, so engaged, asking all these questions, if we look at the statistics and the numbers, it actually says that you're not gonna keep up in the discipline. So the question is, like, why, right? So when you think about why, it's because a lot of things, right? It's like you go to school sometimes and you are, what's the word? Bored. Or like you want to find out exactly why that jellyfish was floating in the air and you want to be able to actually do it and think about it and maybe even go into the places where the actual jellyfish are and get ideas from there and think about it and draw it. And when you get to science classes, you only have to like, I don't know, do more homework. And so there's a big difference between like all the stuff I'm seeing in your eyes right now and what actually happens and when you get to school, and that's what my work is about. So the one thing I'm here to talk about today is how do you end up actually doing science? Like, what are some things that I can share with you to keep you involved in science, knowing that there's a big difference between how you feel about it right now and how you're gonna feel about it when you get back. So that's like my job, right? And for me to do that job, I have this one saying that that stays with me and that I wanna share with you. It's like the Emdin secret. So I'm giving you guys like the secret formula for me right now. This is like personal. And it is this: stem with no root bears no fruit. So when I say stem with no root, I want you guys to say bears no fruit. Okay? Stem with no root. Bears no fruit. Louder, stem with no root. Bears no fruit. Louder, stem with no root. Yell it. Bears no fruit. Much better. Like we need some excitement up in this room. What is wrong with you guys? Come on. So what do I mean by stem with no root bears no fruit? It means like this idea of stem, well, let's talk about it biologically first, right? A stem of a plant, if that stem of the plant is not like in the ground in a root, will it ever bear any fruit? Probably not. And some like biology geek might say, well, Emdin, if you put it in the perfect arid conditions, it may possibly grow some sprouts, but it's not gonna actually bear fruit. And just like a stem of a plant without a root won't bear any fruit, I say science, technology, engineering, and mathematics without a root will bear no fruit. And so the question becomes, Emdin, what is this root? Are you curious about it? You should be. I am. And the root is actually all the things that folks don't tell you about when you're in science classes. The thing that actually makes you connect to science is not the science itself, it's all the stuff outside of science that people tell you not to look at and think about. What if I told you that the answer to being a scientist is not about doing clean, neat things, but rather the most messiest things and the most uncomfortable things you've ever done before? To be a scientist or a mathematician or an engineer actually requires going to the root. The root is dirty, it's grimy, it's messy, and so it means going to places that you would not ever expect. And the root is places where people will say things like, the only man better than me is embedded in me. They buried me, but I resurrect so effortlessly. They labeled me, disabled me, and said they saw no changes. I said, Chris from the Bronx, he ain't gonna make it. So while they talk about portrays and the way he portrayed us, all I could say is look at the media and the way it portrays us, how that phenomenon has so many layers, how the way I look with the cameras on affects the way that they grade us, but I'm still the greatest like Ali, and probably improperly and awkwardly they got me locked with mediocrity, but that prophecy was pure hypocrisy. They couldn't stop me, try to lock me at a green light, and I move on red. Now, when I perform that, thank you very much. When I perform that, people are like, oh man, that was cool. This guy raps. I thought you said he was a professor and he was a scientist. And I'm like, yeah, by the way, I am an anthobiochemist. I did mesenchymal stem cell research and research on the etiology of schizophrenia. But do you know what I needed to be able to get those degrees and do that research? I had to go to my root. And my root was hip hop. Everybody in this room right now has a root. Your parents might say, be a scientist, take more science classes, do all those things. That's the answer. And that's not the answer. The answer is for you to identify the thing that you love. For some of you, it's hip hop. For some of you, it's dance. For some of you, it's art. For some of you, it's soccer. I say to be a scientist, don't just run to the science and the formulas. Find the thing that you love, because the thing that you love is always connected to science. There's one thing I love about science is that it is everywhere. Like if you are washing your hair before you get here in the morning, there is a chemical formula for the shampoo that you use. If you're taking a deep breath, there's a biological explanation to how you can take your deep breath and not run out of breath. If you're making a decision about what to wear, there's something psychological and that has to do with your body for you to make that decision. That everything around us is science anyway, so if you want people to be scientists, don't just throw science at them. Find the thing that makes them tick. So I'm a good rapper, at least I think I am. Actually, I know I am, sure. And being a good rapper and rapping about things about my self-confidence is what got me through science. So just like I spit that rap before, I could also say something like this. I'm a physicist, lyricist, spitting this ridiculousness, so witness the ignorance I dismiss. If Newton's laws of motion is the topic of the course, then things in motion stay in motion unless they hit an unbalanced force. And next up's the second law, situation and summation, force equals mass times acceleration. And that's the second law that Newton foresaw. If you want more, then the third law is in store. See, every force has an opposite force, and every action has an equal plus opposite reaction. The sum of all objects at rest is zero unless that object is no longer relaxing. I mean in motion, that's changing location till it hits traction, the coefficient of friction. Then it all comes to a full stop, and there went Newton laws over hip-hop. But hold up, I'm off Newton. I'm on to Einstein. I love Einstein because Einstein's mind is like mine. His formula was E equals MC squared, which is weird because me is your favorite MC squared. Yeah. Now, the same skill set that I use to perform any regular rap is the same skill set that I used to use all those scientific ideas that you see on your screen and combine them into a rap. One thing that we also don't learn about STEM enough is that actually art and music is the language of STEM. Did you know that all of the most brilliant innovators and creators in STEM disciplines of our time were also musicians? Did you know that Einstein developed his ideas by first thinking about them as he played his violin? And if Einstein was playing a violin in 19 whatever it was, you can be spitting bars in 2016. That music and lyricism is brilliant. And people just don't name it as that because they don't know. Did you know that a person who does vandalism by writing graffiti on walls, although I'm not saying write graffiti on walls, but did you know that to be able to do that requires very complex and deep scientific knowledge? Did you know that you need the inverse square law in physics to know how to paint so you don't paint too thick and it doesn't drip? And you have to write it on a notebook first and then put it on the wall, so you have to know ratios and proportions? And did you know that you have to know about spatial reasoning and mathematical knowledge to be able to do those things? No one tells us, you or me or the world, that that is science and that is STEM. So if you tell your parents, I want to be a graffiti artist, they're going to say, no, never. But they don't know that by being a phenomenal graffiti artist in safe places that you won't get locked up, can actually be what connects you to be a scientist and an engineer and a mathematician. You know why? Because a stem with no root, Now let's take this a step further so you can understand the beauty of this thing. I'm sorry, I'm like super excited. The beauty of this thing, right? The beauty of this thing also is we have to also identify stories about people that aren't seen or described as scientists who are actually scientists. Who here has heard of Harriet Tubman? Everyone. And what do you know about Harriet Tubman? Oh, she freed the slaves, and they went up north, and it's in your history class. But what if I told you that she was a brilliant scientist? The idea of being able to look at a night star without having any knowledge about astronomy or astrophysics to identify that star actually is something that people get Ph.D. degrees for doing. She had to go through the night environment and learn how things were going. That's geography, that's ecology. So there's science even in stories that we don't know is scientific. How do you connect to the root to become a scientist? Find your own heroes and discover the science in their stories. Who here loves comic books? What comic book do you love the most? What character do you love the most? Captain America. Or even let's go like to Marvel or like, do you know that Stan Lee's ideas about how he created the best comic books are actually based on scientific principles? Now, he didn't get like a formal science degree per se. He just loved this stuff, and you make it more complicated, more beautiful, more sexy when you add science to it. What I want you guys to think about today is not to be a scientist because someone tells you it is. It is to be a scientist because you want to make the knowledge that you already have and the thing that you're most passionate about connect to science. When you connect anything to science, you become better at anything else. Like, I feel like I'm the best rapper in the universe because I can find how to connect what I love in science to hip hop and be better at it. There's no other science hip hop person that is nice like me. Simply because I'm doing the things I'm passionate about. If you're into Captain America, you can be the foremost scientist in describing how you can get comic book concepts to be able to apply to real life. No one's thought about that. You can be that person. I don't want you to be scientists who are just like, do you know that even in science, there are like levels of scientists? Like, there are people who are like, ooh, I'm a scientist. Ooh, I'm a scientist. All they do all day, I need to go back. I'm sorry, I'm just so excited. Okay, I'm sorry, camera folks. The kids are looking at me and I just want to look at them and then it got emotional and then, sorry. Okay, are we back? Yes. Okay, so do you know that there are scientists today who have jobs in science who went through tons and tons of degrees and obstacles to get to science and are bored to death every day when they go to work? Do you know why? Because they're not doing what they love. Do you know also there are people who are doing science every day who are just like you might as well be doing anything because all you do is just follow instructions all day. And people who follow instructions all day aren't scientists. The scientists are the ones who are creative and imaginative. And we don't teach you guys you can be creative and imaginative from now, so you work all your life till later and then you lose it all and then it makes me sad and then we'll move on. The next thing I want to share, and I think is the most important one, and again, I'm sharing this because I think it's the most important things for you guys to know, is that just because, oh, by the way, that was a simulation to show you like a scientific simulation of how you can identify the North Star that cost hundreds and thousands of dollars to do that Harriet Tubman did on her own without even knowing anything about science. Crazy, right? But what I really wanted to show you guys is this, right? So this is like serious. This is the serious part. Are you all looking at me? Here's the serious part. Look in my eyes. I mean this. You don't have to get great grades at everything to be a scientist. This is important. I'm not saying don't try to get good grades. All the parents are like, oh, here he goes. He's ruined it. I'm just saying that if you're not successful in traditional schooling does not mean that you can't be a scientist. Don't let someone's grades kill your curiosity and your brilliance and your passion. Albert Einstein was a C/D student, and he changed the world. Are you listening to me? So I'm going to tell you amazing stories, like one of my favorite stories of all time about this guy named Thomas Fuller. Has anybody heard of Thomas Fuller? One person, two people, three people. Oh my gosh, so sad. Four people. Darn it. So I'll tell you about Thomas Fuller. Just remember this. Thomas Fuller lived from 1710 to 1790. So he was how many years old when he died? Okay, I just wanted to test the math. Okay. And he died at 80 years old. And they called him the famous African calculator. And do you know why they called him this? Because of where he was born and the circumstances around him, he never learned how to read or write. Could you imagine being 80 years old and not knowing how to read or write? Who can read or write in here? So you already have an advantage over Thomas Fuller. You guys following my story so far? So this dude, they call him the famous African calculator. Why do you think they called him that? They called him that because people will come up to him and be like, hey, Tom, what's 7 times 7 multiplied by 777 times? And they said in 9 times out of 10, just in his brain, he can give the answer. Crazy, right? He couldn't read or write, and he could do this. So this was so fascinating, and then what happened was the folks who were actually the slaveholders at the time were like, hey, this guy thinks he's so darn smart. Like, and they call him the calculator, but he can't be smart because he can't read or write. So one night, like imagine the story, like this is how I imagine the story to happen. One night they go into the slave quarters, they get this dude named Tom, they're like, Tom, come over here, you think you're so smart, don't you? They get him on the stage, he sits on the stage, and as he's standing on the stage, they also get like all the smartest people that they know who know how to read or write. And they put them all on the stage, and Thomas is like in the middle. Are you following my story? Can you see it? Can you imagine it? I can't, all right? Like seats, they're sitting there, he's standing there, and then they're like, yo, Tom, since you say you're so smart, we want you to find out how many days, weeks, months, and years there are between 1714 and 1734. Go. And all the folks who are around him who could read or write, what are they doing? They're like calculating and they're trying to find the answers really quickly and they're going and they're going. And Thomas is just sitting there like, And all of a sudden, they're like, one guy on the side of him goes, I've got the answer, I've got the answer. And as he said he's got the answer, he says the answer out, and they're like, sounds like a good answer. Then the other guy on the other side of Tom's like, I got the answer, I got the answer. And his answer is the same as Tom's answer. And so now they're looking at Tom like, look at you. You said you were smart, but you couldn't read or write, and we knew it anyway, right? And then he steps out, and he says, gentlemen, you would have been correct, except you forgot to account for the leap years. Right. That, to me, is stem with no root bears no fruit. This idea that just by being more imaginative, you are better. If you are here today in this room and you can read or write, or if you're in this room today that you have gone through a couple of classes and science classes, you have a more advantage and more opportunities than Thomas Fuller did. But guess what? If you failed a science class or failed a math class or didn't do well in school one semester or didn't get the best grades, you can still be a Thomas Fuller and prove everybody else wrong. To be successful in STEM is not really about how smart you are. Do you know what it's about? How persistent you are. How you keep on going. Who heard of Kobe Bryant's game yesterday? Good. This is a great example. Yesterday, Kobe Bryant played his last basketball game, and in his last basketball game of his career, how many points did he score? He scored 60 points in his last game. The rest of the season, he's been not as great as he could have been, right? And he's been great all his career, but and why is he not as great anymore? Well, he's like almost 40 years old. NBA players are like 18 and 19, and the game is faster than usual, and you have all these reasons why he couldn't be great. And then on that last game, he scores 60 points. How does he score 60 points out of nowhere? He shot 50 times. Wait, that's important. That's important. Because if you're trying to get you're trying to get those numbers at the end, you got to put up them shots. What if he shot the first shot and he missed? The second shot he missed, he was like, well, I guess it's over for my career. Can't drop 60 tonight. He kept shooting. There are players on that court who are more talented than him. He was tired and exhausted. He kept going. Listen, guys, this is the formula. I don't know if anybody's going to tell you this, but I'm not going to leave here without telling you this. To be successful in STEM, it's not about how smart you are. It's about how creative and imaginative you are, and it's how many times you get back up and keep trying after people tell you no. I wanted to be a rapper. That's what my goals were. And the reason why I wanted to be a rapper is because nobody told me I could be a scientist. The first time I got into a science lab and started doing work, I was like, wait, this is easy. If these people had to memorize all these formulas and are failing their tests, all I have to do is put it in a rap. And if I put it in a rap, I could memorize for the test in 2 minutes and still do it. The memorization that made me great is just me not giving up. So to close out, because I only got 5 minutes and I want to answer some questions, I did a competition in New York City that I'm inviting everybody here to be a part of. This is huge. And my competition was to go around New York City public schools and have kids write raps about what they were learning in science. And I don't care if you're a rapper or not, they were just going to work on these raps. And what we did is we had the kids across the city write raps, and then they had to go into and who heard of a rap? Anybody knows what a rap battle is? Right? They had to have a rap battle about science. And they went back and forth, and it was around the whole city, and at the end of it, we had this one kid who was a winner. And he was the New York City science genius. And PBS did a version of this, and they had their own PhD level scientists writing raps about science. Did you know that we compared the raps of the 9th grader to the raps of the PhD level physicists, and they had the same science content? What does that mean? It means that already right now, you are as brilliant as a PhD level scientist. And so I'm opening up for you guys. Parents, listen up. You guys, I'm challenging you to go home and write a science rap. And you're gonna write that science rap, and then you're gonna put it on YouTube, and you're gonna put it on YouTube, and then you're gonna put a hat, and all of you are gonna do this, right? It's like homework. And you're gonna send it to me on Twitter, and you're gonna use hashtag hip hop ed, and then also put hashtag SciFest, and I'm gonna find the top science rapper here, and we're gonna invite you to our Science Genius competition in New York City on May 20th, all right? And then lastly, in my 4 minutes, I wanna play you the video of the kid who won the first science genius who wrote a rap about physics and applied it to life, and I think it's pretty amazing. So we'll close out with Jabari Johnson's rap, and me beatboxing, of course.
I gotta hear what you got, and I know we ain't got a full studio here, so he brought his crew with him.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
We are Beatniks, man.
Beatniks, that's the crew. Beatniks is the crew. My man here, tell me your name again, brother. Sheldon got the guitar back there. He doing it like Wyclef. You know what I mean?
Let the professor come up there. I'm gonna get up there. I'm gonna drop a beatbox.
Chris gonna beatbox for him.
Why not?
He gonna beatbox. He
Why
gonna play
not?
guitar. We going in. HuffPost Live. I gotta hear this, man.
All right.
Check. Yo, yeah, this concept is applied to all lives. We strive times distance, be a witness to the prize. Be a man, understand you comprehending this is vital. Work equals F.D, the equation for survival. Your only rival is friction, don't get caught up in the drag. You better prepare, cause obstacles fight back. When you get knocked down though, please don't cry. Just get up and apply more force next time. One day, I was dreaming with a really strong hope that I'll make it, but to make it takes more than just believing. These resistance / demons were kinda holding me back. And I let them, but the simple way to get me on track was force times displace is work, no debate. I'll take that concept, apply it to my mistakes, and now I'm progressing a natural rap genius. I'ma get an A if I see this on a region. Here's the lesson, I know it kinda hurts, but if you truly wanna work, then there must be progression, cause FD equals W's the rule, and the unit measurement for the product is called joules. Cool, I did the work, I'ma try to let it flow. The more people I know, kinetic energy grows, so I'ma go to work, convert all of my potential, and as my speed increases, then I'ma go exponential. The work has been applied, if my equations are correct, the energy that is left creates a domino effect. My mass is what I'm bringing to the table, underestimate your wish that you had brought a bigger dinner plate. Separate me from the fakes, let me educate. Velocity is my following, and that's what I'ma generate. Through these shows and gigs, just overcoming all the friction to the point where friction doesn't even make a difference. I feed my interest with the laws of physics. When M&V multiplies, the picture is painted vivid. The work was just something that got me inside the door. Now we squaring the V and exponentially more. I got a lot in store for the V's, cause I'm progressing my M, and when you multiply them, there's no end to the kinetic energy. You better be prepared, filling you up with envy when my 1F and V squared. Yo, here's the lesson, I know it kinda hurts, but if you truly wanna work, then there must be progression, cause FD equals W's the rule, and the unit measurement for the product is called joules. Cool, I did the work, I'ma try to let it flow. The more people I know, kinetic energy grows, so I'ma go to work, convert all of my potential, and as my speed increases, then I'ma go exponential.
What?
I'm done. I'm done. Snoop, I love you, bro. Wayne, you my dude. This young boy killed both of y'all, man. Yo, the best freestyle.
So I'll stop there, because the last thing he said was, he said, Snoop, you're my dude, because Snoop was up there freestyling the week before on that show. And he said, Wayne, you're my dude, because Lil Wayne was up there freestyling the day before. And he said, this young kid killed both of you guys, right? And he did it using science. And if you can find what speaks to your heart and to your soul and connect that with STEM, that's what's gonna make you brilliant. And if you're resilient and you keep going, you'll be successful. And I have 45 seconds left, but you guys stay in touch with me. Parents, I'd like to talk to you about this work. And my hashtag is HipHopEd, and my handle is @ChrisEmdin. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.